Hey guys, welcome to our first Weaponsgrade review. Today I'm going to be reviewing Blood Bowl Team Manager, the card game by Fantasy Flight Games. This is a 2 to 4 player card game that simulates a season of Blood Bowl. Blood Bowl is a game by Games Workshop. Essentially, it's a football slash rugby game set in their fantasy Warhammer setting. They use teams like these, unpainted. You paint them up and you play a game on the pitch, essentially your field. This game aims to essentially simulate an entire season of this game. Does it succeed? Does it fail? Is it fun? Let's go over the components and stuff first. I'll go over some gameplay and then I'll give you my opinions. In Blood Bowl Team Manager, you're coaching a team of 12 players. You'll be adding more throughout the game, but essentially 12 players to start, and you're trying to take control of different matchups and highlights. Out here you'll see the headline or the highlight cards here and the tournament cards here. Those are going to be mainly what you're going after. Essentially, what you're trying to do is not always necessarily win the matchups, although winning is good, but you want these flags. Those little flags indicate fans, and that's the ultimate goal in the game, is to gain fans. It's not necessarily who wins the most highlights, but who's gained the most fans at the end of the game. Now, you'll notice on here a lot of the ways to win fans are through winning the actual tournaments, so you do want to win, but there are other cards and ways in the game that are really flavorful that lets you get fans in other ways, like through cheating tokens and things like that, which we'll go over in a little bit. But the basics is you want to have the highest star value at a specific game. You're winning essentially by having the best players left at the end of that highlight or tournament. So let's take a look at a highlight here. Actually got one right here, one of my favorites, the double crossing routes. I love the names on these. They're really flavorful. So the way you look at this is actually like this. So they'll be turned sideways, and essentially players are going to be able to play on either side. So they'll have this end zone or this end zone. So whoever gets the first play on here gets to choose either side. It doesn't matter which side you're necessarily sitting on. And at the end of the game, players are going to win whatever payouts are in their end zones here. So in this case, they'll be able to choose from 3 star players, or whoever's on this side will get 2 fans automatically. What they're really competing for is in the middle here, which in this case, there's a slash, so they can either choose to take a team upgrade or 2 fans. So, ultimately, as long as you have players on either side at the end of the matchup, you'll be able to get the payouts in the end zones. What you're really competing over is the middle there. Now, over here on the tournaments, it's just a first, second, and last place prize. So there's not necessarily like an auto payment, although you'll automatically get the loser's prize even if you just completely get blown out there, but you're really going to win those. So, and those are big swingy types of events that get you a ton of fans or a ton of star players. Like in this case, you get choice of 3, kind of like over there, but you also get 5 fans. So those are ones you're really going to go after. There's going to be 5 of these in a deck, and in a 2-player game, you'll only be using 5 of these. And more players, you'll actually add these headline cards, which headlines will be coming up twice in a deck essentially, and instead of a tournament you'll have a special event like this one. The weather disrupts the match, and each team zone cannot hold more than 3 players. So essentially you wouldn't be able to play more than 3 players on either side of this, and that wouldn't really work for a 2-player game since there's only 2 matchups. The rules are a little bit different for 2 players, still work, they just have to cut these out. And ultimately what you're going for is just to get the most fans on this little spinner here, which is a neat little component, and I'm a really big fan of that component. And you'll be doing that through headlines. However, there's other ways you can customize your deck and customize your team, as well as the powers that the team comes with itself, because different teams are better at different things. So let's go over some of the team abilities, some of the actual powers, and how you'll actually get control of the matchups and things like that. So the game comes with 6 teams. You have the Chaos Waste Confederation and the Old World Association. Essentially just a fancy way of saying bad guys and good guys. The bad guys, you have Chaos, Skaven, and Orcs. And then the good guys over here, you've got Dwarves, Humans, and Wood Elves. So they play a little bit differently for teams. Like Dwarves are a little more stout, more resistant to being tackled. Humans are a little more jack of all trades. They can take the ball, catch it. They can go through your deck a little bit. Wood Elves hit kind of hard. There's cheating on the bad guy's side more of the time. So there's a lot of built-in innate abilities kind of that give each team their own feel, which is really neat. So on the cards, you'll see these little yellow abilities here, which will be the actual powers in the game. So we have tackling, which is the little explosion. You have sprinting, which is the little arrow. And you'll see this little skull here, that's going to be cheating, which is one of my favorite mechanics. I'll go over that in just a sec. So the game is based around these stars in the upper left-hand corner. And these abilities will happen when you actually play the card. So at a matchup, in the end, the higher star value wins. Now, the way you affect that is, say, let's take the humans for example. So I'm playing a human on one side of a matchup. Let's just grab any highlight card here. So I play a human on this side, and my opponent is playing Chaos. So he's got this beast man here, and he plays that next turn. So you do the abilities in left to right order. So he'd get a cheating token, which are these little skulls here. Those go face down, you don't get to look at them. And then he gets to tackle. So the way tackling works is you compare star value, which in this case it's 3 to 3. If you have a higher star value than the opponent, you get to roll 2 dice and pick the best, which the dice look like this. They have 3 little explosions, which mean tackle, an X that means you injure yourself, and 2 blanks. So if I had a higher value, I'd get to roll 2 and take the highest. Obviously you want to take a tackle. Since I have the same, I only get to roll 1 and take whatever it gives me. And if I had lower star value, I'd have to roll 2, and then my opponent picks, which they'd want to pick an injury or something, or just a blank if they can. So essentially, let's roll 1, and we get an X. So instead of tackling my opponent, I kind of hit myself. I trip and fall, and bam, there we go. So my star value is no longer 3. It's actually my fallen star value, which is just 1. So right now it'd be 1 to 3. Now, another ability I don't have out here, let's see if I can find one with that ability. Oh, there it is right there, is the little football symbol, the throw. So, on each matchup, at the beginning of the matchup, before anyone plays anything there's going to be these little footballs out here. And the football's worth 2 stars if you're holding it. So, let's say I play an orc thrower. If you have this little symbol, wherever the football is, you can move it 1 space towards you. So he'd be able to move it on here. Now let's say one of the opponents had the football. He'd be able to move the football from there to here. Pretty simple. Some of them have multiple footballs, things like that. So it's an ability for ball control, get a higher star value. The sprint doesn't necessarily immediately affect the game. It lets you draw and discard. But what that's good for is cycling through your deck and getting rid of linemen. Which linemen, if you've played any other deck building games or semi-deck building games, you're always going to have like chaff cards, just trash cards that aren't really that good. Linemen are kind of like that. They're kind of useful, but they're only worth 1 star. They have the guard ability, which lets them soak up tackles from other players, but for the most part, they're the ones that you want to get out of your deck as quick as possible. So that's kind of the basics of the matchup and how the players work. So let's go over some of the kind of bonus cards, things like that. Things that will customize your decks a little bit more and customize your team. Gives it a little bit more of that same flavor I was talking about. Let me do a quick blurb here about cheating in particular. It's one of my favorite abilities, and it's one of the most evocative of the theme of the game. So essentially, with cheating, you don't get to look at the token that you place on your character here, and you don't know what it is until the end of the game. Some star players have effects that let you look at them, but it's very, very rare. It's not something you normally get to do. So, with cheating, you reveal them at the end of the matchup, and they can give you bonuses. Like, let's see what this one does. Bam, you got an additional fan right there. And there's other ones like that. There's some stuff that gives you additional stars. Like this one. This one's not a negative, it's just a 0 star, so it doesn't really give you much. But this one here, there's an additional 1 star. But my favorite one is the whistle. And the whistle means that player is ejected immediately. So their star power ceases to count for that matchup. As soon as you reveal that, he is out of there. So it can get players kicked out of games. It can also give you huge bonuses as far as star power goes. So it's a huge gamble, but the bad teams that have that ability are some of my favorite teams to play. I just love that random fact of chance that you know you're going to get a bonus or you're either going to get ejected. I most of the time get ejected, but still one of my favorite abilities. The last thing I really wanted to go over here were some of the other payouts that we saw in the cards earlier. You have the staff upgrades, the team upgrades, and star player decks. So, as you can see on the back of these cards, like the good guys have their own star players, the bad guys have their own star players. And you'll notice on these, they'll each have a different card back as well. Each team has their own deck of upgrade cards that they can draw from. But everyone shares the staff upgrades. So staff upgrades and team upgrades are pretty similar, other than the fact that the staff upgrades are shared. Staff upgrades can be kind of generic. They'll, like the sprinting coach, at the end of the game, you'll gain a fan. And a matchup action, essentially, you'll be able to use that once per round. You'll be able to exhaust it to give them the sprinting skill. Offensive coordinator, pretty similar. You can exhaust it to make whoever's you play down become the ball carrier. You also gain a fan. The team abilities are a little more flavorful, a little more thematic. So here we have a Wood Elf one. This is the conditioning coach. When one of your carriers is targeted during the tackle attempt, exhaust it to reveal one cheating token. Add the token star power value to your player's star power during the tackle attempt. So let's say if you had a player with a cheating token on them already, you'd be able to get a little boost during the tackle, and they would most likely have to roll both dice, and you take the worst result, or they'd only be able to roll one. So it's a little bit of a boost. It gives you a more thematic idea of the elves being a little more elusive. Dwarves get things that stand them back up and if they get tackled, things like that. Others deal with cheating. Each team has their own little selection of them. I really like that. And then in star players, you have star players from each different faction here. So you have like a tree man for the wood elves. You got the dwarven hero here. And you have these guys called freebooters. And what freebooters are is a generic form of star player. Essentially, they're just kind of a humanoid ogres. They're not really necessarily aligned with any specific faction, but they'll sign on to your team at the cost of you removing a player from your deck, which isn't actually that bad of a thing. It's actually a really good thing, and freebooters can be really strong because they can get those crappy linemen out of your deck, replace them with someone who's way better, and it thins your deck out a little bit. Your deck's only going to have 12 players in it, but the less chances of drawing a lineman are always better. So freebooters are really strong. They kind of balance that out with the fact that they're not usually a higher star value as the other heroes that you might get, and they may have less abilities. Usually it's just the standard abilities on the card or something pretty simple that your guys may already have. Each deck has freebooters. They're exactly the same. The other star players are the ones that are going to be different. They're going to be different from each faction. So that gives you kind of a rundown of the other ways that you influence the deck. These are the star players, I think, have the biggest impact on the game, especially freebooters. But the staff upgrades can be kind of swingy and have a lot of effects as far as each matchup goes, like the sprinting coaches, the apothecaries that can heal your guys back up. The team upgrades are fun. They're very thematic, but I tend to have not as much use for them. They're still very useful, but I tend to look at my staff upgrades and end up using those a lot more. My star players, I value that more. It's not necessarily that I don't use the team upgrades as much, but I don't usually aim to get them as prizes, so usually I don't have as many of them to use, because staff upgrades and star players are so powerful. So that's kind of might be a little bit of an imbalance, but it might just be me playing my playstyle, because I know I have opponents that go for team upgrades more. They end up using them more. It's probably just personal preference in that case. So in the end, what did I think of Blood Bowl Team Manager? Well, I really enjoy the game. It's not all positive, but it's dripping with flavor, it's dripping with theme. I enjoy deck builders. This I wouldn't consider a full-on deck builder like Dominion or Thunderstone. This is more of a light deck builder. Your deck starts out at 12 cards. You're never going to really get over 20. That's high for this game. Freebooters are going to be removing cards when they go in, so more of a shuffling game than a deck building game. I love the cheating in the game. Some of the best moments I've had when gaming is just having one guy with like 5 cheating tokens on him and being down in stars at the matchup and revealing them one at a time to get 1 star, 0 stars, 2 fans, 2 stars, then bam, a whistle, and he is out. He's gone. So, I mean, I'm losing a guy, but it's still a ton of fun. Some of the downsides to it, I'm not a huge fan of the way Fantasy Flight does their rules most of the time. It has the information there. It's not very well organized. Learning the game, it's not a very difficult game, but when you're first learning and walking through the game, it's kind of hard to find the examples you want. It's kind of hard to find the information you want when you're going back just to reference it. And one big problem they had, at least when I first got the game, was some staff upgrade cards. These in particular, these aren't in the deck right now because in the FAQ, they introduced what's called the salary cap version, essentially the non-broken version, because these staff upgrades are busted. At the end of the game, essentially, if you're using these upgrades, you're gonna win. Whoever has the most of these specific ones won because they were very swingy as far as how many fans they gave. You can still play with them. Obviously, they're included with the game. They're there to be played with, but I don't recommend it unless you really like the swinginess. Unless it's just more about getting these cards to you, then that's fine. I mean, in the end, we were going for these cards more than we were going for fans because we knew if you got these specific cards out of that deck, you were set to go because giving you points for freebooters, which are already better than regular star players because they get your deck thinned out, things like that. It wasn't as fun to me. I didn't enjoy those, but overall, other than some of the rules things, I love the components. I love the little fan scoreboards. Some of the cool little score trackers I've used. You can get a nice little start player token. The card quality is great. Fantasy Flight makes good components. That's their bread and butter is great components, great thematic games. I really enjoy them. So I would definitely recommend this. One thing I've had an issue getting this on the table sometimes is that people that don't like sports, this isn't really a football game. This isn't really a sports game, but the fact that it has that sports gloss on it, the helmets and things like that, some people just don't like that, and that's understandable. So just kind of gauge your group if they're interested in things like this. If they're not interested in sports, even if it's a fantasy sport, if it's obviously not real guys killing each other, it's still probably going to be a tough sell. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But overall, I would definitely recommend this game. One of my favorites. Very belated thanks to my Secret Santa from 2011 on Board Game Geek for sending me this game. It was on my wish list. I love this game. A whole lot of fun. Not much can get better. Except this. Sudden Death. This will be the expansion. We'll review this next time. Some things I like, some things I don't on this one. Same deal with this. It's definitely got a lot of positives, some negatives. Overall, what I think, does it add enough? Is it worth the price? I'll go over it next time. But for now, thank you for joining me in the game room. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to us here on our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter. I try to update as much as I can on those websites. I'm always on Twitter now. I'm kind of addicted to it now. So definitely check us out in those areas. And thanks for joining us in the game room.